Before we go on, I want you to be aware I'm sponsored by Strixon, but Strixon have got no influence on the outcome of these results. The data will be shown to you as collected. This is an honest review of what these 4 balls can do. Just want to be upfront with you at the beginning. Going to do a fun golf ball test today. So in the premium bracket, both of these brands have got their new ball release. So we've got Pro V1, Pro V1X from Titleist, brand new version of those balls. And I've got the new Z Star and the new Z Star XV. So they're kind of equivalent balls in ideas of what they're trying to achieve. Today's video is going to be a bit about what these balls can do and can't do. Also, hopefully give you some ideas on how to buy golf balls, what you're looking for when you're coming to buy golf balls, and then in turn maybe give you a bit more of an empowered decision on if you really need a certain golf ball. Does it really make any difference? Now in the comments down below, let me know, what golf ball do you use? Let me know what golf ball you use in that comment and why. Why do you use it? All right, let's look at the disciplines that I use to test these balls. Now the first thing I did is I hit 50 shots with each ball in each discipline. First discipline was a 10-yard chip. And we'll talk about number of shots and why I did that as we go on. When I did the test, I alternated, I literally hit 1 shot with each ball. So 1, then change, 1, then change, 1, then change, 1, then change at each discipline. Let's take a look at the numbers of the 10-yard chip and see if we can see any difference in these balls. So if we look at the backspin of a 10-yard chip, because this is something you might be buying a ball for, short game kind of control as people call it. The lowest spinning was the XV, just around the 2,500 mark, and then the highest spinning was the Pro V1X, and then Z Star and Strixon and the Pro V1 did almost identical, as you can see from those data, and none of the standard deviations are outside of each other, they're all overlapping. So really, with all those amount of shots, it's very hard to see a difference between these 2 balls, or 4 balls. So for these disciplines, we're going to use the 17th at St Andrews. And I've made the green super firm, fringe firm, and the greens as fast as possible. So the kind of idea where you would want one of these balls to really stand out. Now what I'm going to do is use the Pro V1X, the highest spinning out of this batch of 50 shots with each ball, and then the Strixon XV, so the lowest spinning, and let's see what it makes any difference in a more gaming environment. So we're over the back of the 17th green. So this green now is I've got to chip it up and down. It's running away from me. So it's a funky little chip. So we're going to a few with the XV to start. Oh, stop, 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 stop. You can see, look how quick that is. Wowzers. So I've dropped that a little bit shorter, trying to run it down there. Going for the real, like, checky up one there on that. Look at that, yeah, you just have to kill it, don't you? Look at that. See how the Pro V1X does. Now, one of the standouts with both of these sets of balls, so the XV and the Pro V1X both sound considerably firmer than the Z Star and the Pro V1. Sit. So that's a pattern that runs through with both sets of balls. Might be better. Look at that, that could go in. Go right now. Stop. And the difference between Pro V1X and Strixon XV in feel is like nothing. They feel like the same ball. They're that clippier sound. All right, last one. Let's check this one out. Stop, stop, stop. Oh yeah. Go on, in you go. That could go. Go right now. Yes, please. So remember that was 50 shots that we hit prior. Now what we're seeing is we're seeing 2.7 spin with the Z Star XV, and we're seeing 2.6. We did have a Duncham run in there, which we could take out. Takes it 2.3 to 2.7, standard deviation of 200 to 100. I mean, I just don't think you're going to see the difference in those 2 balls, which means in the others that were even closer to each other, I think you would see less of a difference. I just don't think you're going to feel a difference. People are going to make up differences. Call that one really checked. Like, people self-justify their purchases without really measuring it. It's more likely they just want to feel that it is better. They have spent money. I just think around the green, all those balls are going to be it's going to be you, which is the bigger variable that you can see in there. And then if you look at who's closer, obviously we hold the last one. So if we take that one away, it's 7'3" to 7'1". And then the chip in, obviously the pin stopped it, makes the Pro V1X on that test win, if you can class that as a winner. Again, look at the standard deviation. It's 5'8" with a 4'7" standard deviation, which bleeds it straight into this one. And the 7'3" with a 3'11" standard deviation. They're the same, and they're both good. Second discipline, 100-yard shot. So we're now a fuller wedge, a pitch, whatever you want to call it. We're trying now to go 100 yards. Now, just to give you an idea, when it comes to buying balls, I did this test over 2 weeks. 2 weeks of hitting for that amount of shots. So that's the Pro V1, and the first one was the Pro V1X. And again, I can really hear that nice shot. I can hear the difference, which then in turn feels the difference. Post comments down below. Do you prefer a harder, clippier sound or the softer sound? And have you been fooled in the past to think that the softer sound one spins more? You know, it's like, it feels like it's softer, it's going to land quicker, or softer and spin more, those kind of ideas. Have you been fooled by that? Down below. So the 100-yard shot, what was interesting, I was landing them all around 96. The XV just pushed on a fraction further. I'm trying to get the ball to the 100 yards, so I'm landing it just short, and then it hopefully just like bounces 40 yard. It's interesting, isn't it? And if you look at the data as well, think about the ideas of always missing short. Like, it kind of shows it there, doesn't it? Look at my miss. Oh, I mean, I'm getting some coming down to, well, 93 landing, which is coming up way short. But distance control, very similar. The tightest dispersion was the Pro V1X, then followed by the Z-Star, with the VX the most dispersed, so the least tight shots. So look at the backswings. Backswings are interesting. Up near a 10,000 with the Pro V1 and the Pro V1X, where the Z-Star and the XV now much lower in the spinning. Well, I say much lower, they're still 9,000. So the question would be, do I need 10,000 from that distance, which is something that might make you buy a ball? You might think, yeah, my pitches just don't stop, so I want to go for the higher spinning. Or you might think, no problem stopping my pitches. What does it do in the other disciplines? So really the test here, because now we do for the first time see a standard deviation that doesn't cross over between the Z-Star and, say, the Pro V1. Let's get back to St Andrews, firm and fast, 100 yards out over the road hole bunker. In theory, you're going to want that spin, aren't you? 100 yards straight over the road hole bunker. So we're now Pro V1 v the My Z-Star, which was considerably lower spinning on those data sets. And again, I say considerably, it was like about 600-700 revs. So what difference will that make? Well, let's see. Sit down a bit. Oh, sit down, bouncy. Oh yeah, here we go. And spin. Lovely. Should we see if the Z-Star can do any good? Now with the Z-Star, again, this has that softer feel. Stop, stop. Cool, not much in that. Right, one more, and we'll look at the data in the gaming test. Because remember, it was standout different in the 50-shot test. Sit. Oh, yes, please. So Z-Star here on the bottom, spinning at 8.2, and the Pro V1 spinning at 8.7, with a few getting in 9,000, nothing in the 7,000, where I do get one down in the 7,000 with the Z-Star. Next point to think about, standard deviation is 280 to 314, so not much in that, very close, very tight deviation. Average distance from the pin, 4'8" compared to 19'11", with a 16'3" standard deviation on the Pro V to under a 2-foot standard deviation on the Strixon. This land angle, as you can see on that situation, is enough for, what's the difference here? 500 revs? I mean, how do you read that? How do you read that? Tell me in the comments. Like what I see definitely the Pro V1 spinning that bit more. I don't see it giving me an advantage that I will ever see on the golf course, because to be able to do that, I would need to be able to land it 100 yards almost every time, and it need to only ever go 101, which that situation just doesn't exist. It just doesn't, I think that's so interesting. Something that on a data sheet looks so massively different when we take it to course. Now, I'm not saying that the Strixon either is better in this situation. I see them pretty much as the same. We're talking 500 or so revs, 500 revs when the ball's coming in, 45-degree angle, I think it is. You tell me. I know which backs of shots I would take on that test, but I think if I just kept doing that test, that would just constantly just keep flipping over of which one gets closer. So if nothing gets closer, how are we really defining what's better? Discipline number 3, 150 yards. So I'd say the winner here is Pro V1. Look how tight the dispersion is, landing all 146 because I'm trying to get it to the 150. But again, that miss short idea is interesting, isn't it? It plays its part. And then the XV is the shortest and arguably the most dispersed. So it's going to be Pro V1 against the Strixon XV. Now, if we look at the backspin numbers, 7,000 to just over 7,000 with the Pro V1X. Again, lower spinning is my Z-Star, the ball I game, and then the Pro V1 or the Z-Star XV kind of in the mix. Again, the standard deviations are crossing over just, but the standout, the Z-Star is the lower spinning in the medium iron range. And that's actually something I quite like. So we're gonna go, what ball should we go? Because you could argue that the XV isn't making a distance as well, so it lets you down. But then it is spinning up there with the others, which then pushes it back up. So I'm going to do my Z-Star v Pro V1 on this one, A-day equivalent balls, and B, we'll talk about why I gained that ball and not the XV. Right, Z-Star to kick us off then. So again, my ball, 150 over the road hole bunker. So again, a bit of stops needed. Stop. So this lower spinning ball now, in theory, again, is going to make this harder, but in the wedges, remember, we saw it didn't. Now, the reason I use the Z-Star over the XV is because it is a lower spinning iron ball in the mid-irons. The land angle, I think, is fine, as you might see on this data set, and the spin is enough to stop. Where if I go and use the XV, it spins a little harder, which means it comes up a little shorter. I don't want my irons going any shorter. I'm trying to go longer. So I'm actually trying to balance slightly longer mid-irons without dialing back distance, thinking I've got enough control already. Well, let's see if it plays out in this situation. Is that flying? Bit toey, that one. Go! Oh, that got lucky. Remember, if you like this video, you're finding it useful, hit that subscribe button down there, loads of free content. Also, let me know, hit the thumbs up, people. You're not hitting the thumbs up button enough. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you like the content. Helps the channel out. Pro V. That's a lovely shot, surely. So now we're going to see the real benefit of that checking up any quicker. It's a bit of a duff, to be fair. We had one on the other set as well. Look at that. Short of the bunker. Oh, that's the ball's fault, surely. That's why I caught the ground, isn't it? All right, last shot. What do you reckon? Who's come out on top? Yeah, those 5 each. Obviously not flicking between. I could flick between, but it's a little bit harder when I'm capturing the data like this. So Z-Star 6.5 to 6.9, 400 revs more, 200 deviation in spin to 3.4. What was interesting is the tightness of the Pro V spin was better than any of the others. So again, it changes. I mean, that was 50 shots. I can't hit many more with each discipline. That's 50 shots each discipline. And then average distance, 22 foot. To 19 foot 10 inches with a 15 foot deviation. Obviously we did have one go in the bunker, so a bit unfair. To a 9 foot deviation. So Pro V in effect wins that, but I've got almost the same land angle, fraction higher with the Z-Star. I mean, I'm just not seeing a 7-yard predicted rollout on these ones to a 7-yard predicted rollout on these ones. All that's happening for me is I'm choosing a ball that allows me just to not get my, so mine, I'm hitting a 9-iron there to the 150, which is really a 145 club, which is kind of the landing spot on that situation, so it works quite well. But I don't want a ball that might come back, spin loads more from that distance, that area. Like you can see with the chip, it was enough. The pitch, it was fine, it was stopping. The medium irons, yes, it spins a bit less than the XV, so I could choose that if that's what I want to dial into. But I don't, because I don't want my irons dropping 5 yards further back. I want my 9 iron going 160. I'm pushing it to 150. If I'm using the other ball, really it's kind of 135 to 145. At the moment, I feel like my Z-Star is kind of like 140 to 150. So it's just playing into what I feel I want. So again, when it comes to defining what's better, it's going to be relative to you. And then if you think about this test as well, this is indoors, simulated. So we've got loads of mess going on already. 5 and 5, that's mess, because it's not real. I've hit 50 shots with each discipline, which is loads of shots. You can't hit, well, you can't test balls for 2 weeks. It's a £40, £50 dozen purchase. No pro's going to custom fit you for 2 weeks for a golf ball. Then you've got outdoor situations. So does that ball land on the thermal soft bit of the green? Did anything get caught between the face? Bit of dew on the ball? All these things that are thrown in, which are just mess. And I see people seem to be thinking that one ball's better than another. And just before we go to the last discipline, which is the driver, you can see on my big data capture set as well that even though the Pro V1 was the tightest in peak height dispersion, the Z-Star did go that fraction higher. So I'm losing a bit of spin, but it's going a bit higher. It's giving me a bit more distance, you see, but I'm using the land angle rather than the spin to get within feet of each other on that little instance. Right, let's go to the driver. So ball speeds with the driver, I'm getting a little bit more out of XV than I am out of Z-Star, like a fraction. We're talking like 0.5, 1 mile an hour at the most. The slowest being the Z-Star, but I say the slowest, look at the standard deviations of all those, they all cross over. And then if we look at heights, again, so similar. I'm seeing no difference in the drivers. And then again in the distance, I'm not seeing a difference. I'm just not seeing a difference. So again, why don't I go on this one? You would argue the XV is the shortest, the Pro V1X is the shortest. It's not, but on that data set, the mean is slightly lower and the longest is the Z-Star. But if you're buying your ball on the driver, you've not listened to many of my ball and many others, I'm sure, hopefully people's ball tests. So a bit of fun, 17th, we're going to alternate between balls, Pro V1, Titleist first, then Strixon, Pro V1X, Titleist V Strixon. Because you could see there was next to no difference in the performance. I hit a toelet and we see a hook into the boondocks. And this is one of the things I think that's so interesting with the golf industry and golf media at the moment, is that there are so many variables that I need to control. To think the variable of those 4, which you can see overlap constantly. Apart from medium iron is the thing with the Z-Star that stood out as being the lowest spinning, but then it went a bit higher, so I won in a different way, and then I won back with the distance I'm going for. So for me, others, they would want the XV, or they'd want one of the Titleist ones. Like there's so much mess. I mean, they're identical shots, aren't they? Look at that. They're identical toe hooks. I have got to stop toe hooking it. 2 fairways missed, within 1 yard of each other. 300 in revs and spin, but this one's too low. But it's too toey. I need to strike it better. Right, Titleist first again. Let's see if we can get a better strike on it. Better strike, just didn't get the face control, I think. Still toey. Just in the semi-boondocks, not bad. I mean, this is a tough driving hole. Oh, it's right out the bottom. Oh, it's in the hotel. It's in the conservatory. Wedding, gate crasher. So if we look at the last 2, 284 to 247, 36 to 21, 155 to 16 ball speed, me, and that's still toey. Post in the comments down below, do you see if there's better? I think it's interesting that people are trying to find better. I mean, you got to remember as well, the prices of these 2 sets of balls will change. They're not the same price, which is something you might want to think about when you're buying your premium ball. Performance-wise, your mess. as you can see here, is far going to outweigh what we can ever measure. Now I've struck that better. So look, we've flown the conservatory. Yes, please. Oh, not the best bounce in the world, but that was better flight. Last one with the Strixon. So that's just going to carry. So we've hit the path, so it's a bit of an unfair rollout if it catches that. But I mean, slightly less ball speed on the last one. Again, strike not as centered as the Titleist, which is where this ball speed is dropping 1 mile an hour, 2 mile an hour. Spin very, very similar. Fraction more offline, a little bit higher as well, coming from that spin, and other for this launching, a fraction higher on those shots. And then, I mean, look at them. Obviously the roll on these are wrong. 278, 275 carries. It's the mess, isn't it? It's the standout for me is the noise, the mess in the data, even when I'm trying to hit, I mean, 200 plus shots with each ball. It's 4 balls, 200 shots. I mean, I'm testing for a week. The thing you've got to be buying on is price, feel. Then in turn, you want to be trying to think of where a ball can help you and not in certain situations. So what's your weakest and strongest parts of your games? Generally for your driver, they're all going to be very, very matched in their sets, you know, if you're going for different disciplines of balls. You might see some variations we did in the mid-irons, and then you might see it in 100 yards and in a chip shot. You might feel a difference with a putter, and it's those things you need to latch on to. Are ball fittings worth doing? Yes, they are. Can you get enough out of them? Well, it's debatable what's the best way of doing them in a cost-effective way, so the pro isn't just wasting their time giving you 2 weeks of their time and you then go and buy a £35 dozen box of balls maybe. I don't know. Post comments down below. What do you think? I would say 4 very good balls, all doing very similar things with little changes that you would decide which ones you want to buy into or not. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you liked the video, hit that thumbs up button down there. Lets me know that you want more of this kind of compare. And also, don't be afraid to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Loads of free content coming weekly. Let's get trying to get you playing some better golf maybe. Thanks for watching.